This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
We are live.
We are live.
We are live.
Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. This episode is brought to you by Rule 1 Proteins. If you don't know, now you know. Rule 1's got the best protein powder in the business. They also got the best supplements, the best vitamins. You name it, they got it. Go check them out at www.rule1proteins.com. You guys know the drill. My name is Truck. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Podcast is available on all platforms. Follow us on social media. And don't forget to check out the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. Today, I'm joined, as always, by Culls and Shane O'Mac, and today we are talking NFC North. We're doing divisional breakdown. This is the first episode of the series where we kind of in-depth go into the schedule, talk about where we have these wins and losses, and kind of the fantasy values in each team. So I'm really excited to get into this, and I bet you guys are too. Culls, how you doing?
Good, man. Just was hoping that Shane O'Mac was going to recognize the
New,
We got some new headbands.
headgear.
got the Louisiana boot.
Yeah.
Got another headband in the arsenal. Yeah, I'm good. I went to Comedy Mothership, saw Rogan this week. It was pretty good given the political climate right now, and phones are locked away. So there was some pretty good aggressive jokes. It was a really fun time. Tony Hinchcliffe performed, so obviously things got dark and fun. Rogan did like an extended set because he's doing a live Netflix comedy set. Sorry, I was thrown off because I thought Truck froze up. He was just staring at the ground, or he was frozen. I don't know. But it was a So he did an extended set because he's doing a live Netflix. I think it's on next Saturday. So just kind of just going through jokes, trying it out. It was fun.
So speaking of LSU, I got to get your opinion. Like, I need the most pressing thoughts on your boy Joe Burrow's new do. Where do we stand on the Slim Shady?
Will the real Joe Burrow please stand up? That's
Can he
all I
do
have to
no
say
wrong?
about
Is
that.
he basically at that stage in life where he can do no wrong?
Yeah, I don't really I didn't have a reaction to it that much. I think he's whatever. He can do whatever he wants. I think he looks like legit, and he's just does whatever. I don't have much reaction there. I think he looks cool. I think his hair is probably going to grow out, and it's going to end up looking sick. I don't know. I'm not the guy to ask with that.
I think he got what he was looking for. I mean, he got plenty of talk about it. I mean, it's like I said, he's at a stage where, he can wear a backless tuxedo jacket to the fashion shows. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is a legend already.
Joe Cool. Yeah, I've always thought he was the man. He's got a bunch of swag. If he shaves, buzzes his head, and dyes it bleach blonde, I think it still looks good. So,
Yeah, I'm excited, man. Anytime I see Joe Burrow with a new haircut, I'm like, all right, let's go, dude. Football season.
It
Here
looks
we go.
better when it's like longer.
Yeah.
I think
I saw a lot of people dogging it.
Yeah, he's just going for training camp. Going to be locked away playing football. It's probably the most comfortable tanking on and off a helmet. I don't know. For me, it's like that's probably what feels the best, the most functional hair for him. And all he wants to do this year is prove that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league and be all business. So that's what that means to me. If we're going to try to dig into it, which I would rather not be one of those shows that digs into the psychology behind Joe Burrow's hair,
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
just figured
ESPN.
Truck would have tried that at some stage.
Yeah,
of your
Truck,
life.
we need you to dye your hair.
I at one point in my life early on,
Shane.
I had thought about doing that. I went back when I used to wear a spinner chain going to school, reciting Eminem lyrics. So
Yes.
yeah,
Can we get
That
a
was-
commitment from you? If Caleb shaves his head and dyes it blonde, bleach blonde, will you dye your hair bleach blonde?
Yeah, sure. He'll never do it, but if he ever does, You will
No,
see me
like
on the
this
next
year, if he
podcast.
sees Burrow and like just next week, he just for some reasons like, fuck yeah, Burrow's doing that, I'm doing it. You'll show up the next week.
You have my word on that.
Perfect.
I'll do it. All right. Well, let's get into the NFC North. I think this division is going to be very competitive this year, right up there with my opinions on like the best division in football, like the AFC North, that juggernaut of a division. I think this is kind of in the direction of that type of division. I think the Bears did amazing in their offseason, really geared up for to be in contention for the winner of this division. So, and that's kind of where I have them at. I got the Bears at 13-4. And we're kind of just going to go through this schedule. I'm not going to break down every game, but just highlight some spots here that I think are noteworthy. And the Texans.
Yeah. Let's just cut you off real quick. I think putting it in the same category as the AFC North, that is aggressive. They were just a year ago, it was not this way, right? So like just to make that dramatic of a shift, that's to me unrealistic. Like the AFC North has been doing this for years. Like the Ravens, the Bengals, for sure, those two teams I think can win a Super Bowl this year. The Browns, that's their ceiling is probably like AFC Championship-ish if that defense and line is just playing out of their minds. The run game is working. Chubb is humming. Watson's just not turning the ball over. Like their ceiling is probably maybe Super Bowl. Steelers, not so much. But like I don't think Bears can win the Super Bowl, unfortunately. I don't think the Packers are really Super Bowl. Like, do you think, could you see any of those teams winning the Super Bowl?
No, I get your point. I do get your point because I agree with you. I think the Ravens and the Bengals both have a really decent chance at winning the Super Bowl this
I would
year.
have a future. I want a future on both of those teams. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right. I could see
not
the Lions.
Chiefs, it's the Ravens or it's the or it's the Bengals, I think, right?
Yeah. I could see the Lions doing it, and I would love to see the Bears doing it. But year one in this new system and new personnel, it's probably not likely. But yeah, I get
said
what you're
heading
saying.
in the direction. Yes, definitely have to continue. Like they have to be, that they have to be the top three, like 3 out of the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC. I don't think they're there yet. Like I just could see the Bears' ceiling being NFC Championship, maybe Super Bowl-ish. That's just like crazy to even think that. Lions, obviously they were there last year. Were there. Like they had the Niners even thought. I saw that documentary. I caught up on the documentary Receiver and Kittle saying like, I can't wait till we get to just say, you had us in the first half, which is what he ended up saying. They had him. They were worried. Like you could see in the fan base, they were like, what is going on? The Lions, gosh, what's his name?
Equanimeous St. Brown.
I don't know who that other guy was with them, if it was a brother or like a close friend, but he was like, this feels like Super Bowl. Like can't be making comments like that. Not on the road against a team that good. I don't know. Shane, do you think you can see any of these teams winning a Super Bowl?
The only one I think is the Lions,
Yeah.
just because of how dominant they are on both sides of the ball and their weapons.
Well, their defense is going to have to take a huge step in order for that to happen.
I think they will. Yeah.
We've seen Goff, like he's topped out, right? Like he's not going to get better, like significantly better to putting them over the top. I think his talent, like from a talent standpoint, he's pretty topped out, right? Like,
yeah, but it's like you said, they were up 17 against San Francisco, and
what I'm saying is he's not going to be the thing that puts them over the edge. It's going to have to be the defense making the big stride. Like we're not going to see like a huge growth spurt from Goff at this point in his career to where it's like, oh, that's a different level. It's going to have to be the defense. I think we can all agree on that would like make that step. And then, like, does that mean the Niners have to win? I guess they don't. That doesn't mean the Niners have to be injured, but like, I think the Niners are just still way better of a team than the Lions. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jamison Williams takes a step forward. Jameer takes a big step forward. That could be.
Well, I think that defense will. I mean, I think they're one of the only teams that are ranked in the top 5, both offensive and defensive line this year. And so they brought in DJ Reader. They brought in Marcus Davenport to go with Hutchinson. They brought in a couple guys in the secondary. I think it was Carlton Davis from Tampa Bay. So they really beefed up the defense in the offseason.
Okay. Packers, like, that's a team whose Jordan Love could definitely take another step forward. Like him in the first half of the year compared to the second half of the year, I think it was dramatically different. So like building on that second half of the year, that's the way they get a lot better. The young offense as well. But I don't think they added. I mean, I didn't realize the Lions added as many people as you just said. I did, know Reader, but it seems like that's a pretty significant upgrade in their line.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Packers really did that, right? They're just trusting that their young talent's going to take that next step forward.
No, they only drafted, it was Van Ness in the first round, that defensive end. That's basically it. Their main addition.
So then there's the Bears. In terms of their like ceiling, how do they get there? How do they get to the NFC Championship? How do they get to the Super Bowl? Caleb Williams has to be the guy that CJ Stroud, that level of quarterback play we saw out of CJ Stroud. He's got all the weapons around him. So really, I think it's defense. Truck, we want to hear from you. Obviously, you jerk off to the Bears every night. So like defense, they build what they built. They build off of the success they had last season. Jalen Johnson's not satisfied with the contract. He doesn't basically sign it and just kind of fall off, but he remains one of the top corners in the league. And then that offense just kind of like builds momentum throughout the year. Honestly, the Bears have the highest ceiling in my mind. That's crazy to say, but
I'm glad you say it, and it doesn't come from me be the resident Bears guy, because it is true what you just said. It all rides on Caleb for me. If Caleb is able to get acclimated to the NFL, read defenses as he should, and kind of show that elite athleticism that he showed in college, if he's able to put that all together with the weapons at his disposal, sky's the limit. And it does come down to the defense, man. It really
for me,
does.
so like why I say they have the highest ceiling is quarterback play. Like I'm one of those people that is just so like hard on about offenses. I think you need an elite quarterback to win Super Bowls. Has that been the case historically? Like, no, we've seen non-elite quarterbacks win Super Bowls. Brock Purdy almost did it last year, but I just truly think that like that is how you beat the Mahomes. And the reason why the Niners didn't beat Mahomes last year is because they don't have Mahomes, or they don't have that Burrow that can beat Mahomes. Like I just think we're at an age in the NFL where the probability of winning a Super Bowl without an elite quarterback is just getting a lot less and less. And like Goff is just like, you got to close out that fucking game against the Niners. You know what I mean? So if Caleb's that guy, which I think he is year one, then the Bears to me have the highest ceiling. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yeah. And the defense, I mean, we looked at it pretty extensively last year towards the end of the year. They had one of the best run defenses in the league. Like, it's not just their pass defense with Jalen Johnson. Like, Montez Sweat was such a big piece for them. And to go into this season building off that success, like, I really – it was hard for me to find losses in their schedule. Like, it was genuinely hard for me. Like,
I wish you had 17-0.
I want to be the guy that does that, but it's realistically, 13-4 to me is very achievable. The Texans game is going to be tough, in Houston against CJ Stroud and that team. That's going to be a real challenge. But for me, and we're going to be there. Yes. But for me, the rest of those games after that, like, approaching the bye, and then after the bye week, Colts, Rams, Panthers, Jags, Commanders, Cardinals, Patriots, and then Packers and Vikings at home. Like, that stretch of games is so important to the Bears schedule for me, that like you can really develop that confidence that going into that second half of the season, that I can't say how excited I am enough.
Yeah, so I can hear it. We can pause and you can do your thing. You're nice and edged for later. I mentioned the nightly Bears time, if you will.
Yes, sir.
So for me, like, the culture is going to be the thing. Like, the Lions have an established culture. They're playing off of that hard-nosed Dan Campbell, fucking grind it out, risk taking, trust our guy type football. That culture's established. The fan base now expects to win. They felt that success. The Bears are going to be a year behind, where they're like establishing who they are, their identity as a team, and their winning culture. And the fan base is still a bunch of fucking jerk offs. Half of them think that they're fucked and Caleb is gonna be a bust, and then the other half is just like completely unrealistic fucking morons. So like, that's where we're at. I think that's the big difference, right?
You couldn't have said that better. Like, all the guys I work with, half of them that I talk to, like, Bears suck, dude. The Bears aren't going to be any good. Like, this is the same shit every year. I'm not a Caleb guy. Like,
yeah,
dude, this year is as much as it is the same year that we say this is the year in Chicago. This does feel different going into this season, obviously, with everything that happened. So I just look at those guys. I'm just like, come on. Like, what are you not noticing about this year, like, to make you turn that frown upside down?
Yeah. So, well, I hate that, like, I have to speak this way about Chicago and, like, Chicago sports, being from there and should being a diehard across the board. But, like, I've never been, you see Chicago sports on all the lists as like incredible sports town, like whatever, and it should be, but I think the fan base is so fucking miserable. Like, what we just mentioned is, you have the people, they just fight each other. Like, the people that like have been beaten up over the years and are incredibly pessimistic, like, no one wants to listen to you. You're just like, no, that's horrible. And then you have the people that are just like the crazy, like, unrealistic optimism. Like, you can't even speak about, I can't talk to certain people about, like, yeah, I think the Bears are going to win the division this year, because like it turns into like, oh, they're definitely like, and it's like, all right, now you're just unrealistic and like kind of, I don't, you don't leave any room for, if you don't look at things realistic and you're just like, we're winning the division, we're going to the Super Bowl, then like when it happens, do you even get to enjoy it? You know? And it's just not, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, when in reality, like, playoffs, I think, is a huge success in Caleb's first year. Mm-hmm. A huge success.
Yes.
Like, that's like, we have our guy, our franchise quarterback, right? Even if they're 9-8 and just missed the playoffs, and they're building a lot off of next year, I think there is a world where a 9-8 is a win of a season. Now, I think personally, because of my expectations I have for Caleb and that team, it's playoffs is what would make me happy. But, you know, realistically, going from the worst team in the league to what last year, like 5-6 wins to above 500, like, that's a pretty good trajectory to being a contender, a legitimate contender. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The expectations, you know, nationwide or league wide are, you know, above 500 and above, or success rate above 500 in playoffs. You're absolutely right.
To a certain extent, though, like the casual average NFL fan, I think you'd be surprised. They still think like Bears are just the Bears. You know, I definitely think you're very close. You have a skewed view because you're in Chicago, but like just talking to casual NFL fans, they will think like the Bears, like Caleb's shit. He's Pac-12 trash. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely going to be a segment of NFL fans that will be fucking shocked. And once it's not going to be till Sunday Night Football. Luckily that's week 2. If that game was like week 6 and the Bears were like 3-3, no one would even, there's parts of the country that like would think the Bears are a complete non-factor. But because that game is week 2 and they see the bright lights of Caleb versus CJ, I think that's when it's like, all right, fuck, this is a team that is the real deal. A real deal team from the NFC and the AFC. To me, that game is going to be huge for the NFL and what the next era of the NFL is going to be with 2 juggernaut quarterbacks in Stroud and Caleb. So,
did you guys happen to see the graphic that was circulating? Maybe I just saw it because I'm involved in Chicago sports, but how historically bad across the board Chicago sports were this past year between the Cubs, the Sox, the Blackhawks, the Bulls, and the Bears.
No.
It was like below 30%. It was like 28% win rate across every league. Like it was historically bad in every category.
I get some of the things coming across my Twitter timeline. That's really the only thing I check is Twitter, and it's mostly just flooded with fantasy football stuff. But I will randomly get Chicago stuff, and I've been seeing a lot of like the kindergarten, like the Venn diagram of like the kindergarten drawing. You know, it's all just like this elementary Venn diagram, and I saw like teams that have scored 10 runs since the All-Star break, and it was every team in the MLB, and then it was Cubs, White Sox.
Yeah, it's bad, dude. The White Sox are so bad this year, bad. The Cubs aren't much better, so whatever.
Anyways, yeah, so we're talking about like Bears schedule, that Titans Bears game. I have Bears winning. I think that's more pure optimism about being there, and I just cannot wait for that. That being said, like I think they're gonna split this, so that could easily be loss to the Texans, win to the Colts. So I have them at 12-5 when I originally projected it earlier in the offseason. I'd say like draft time, I had them at 11 wins. So 11-12 wins, winning the division is kind of where I have the Bears. I don't put too much into this win-loss. Like for me, it's more about just getting within range of a win or two, and then Bears being I'm right now in this point in the offseason, I'm creating a narrative in my head. Bears win the division. Bears are a 12-win team. In order for them to do that, and then I back into my narrative of the team. So Bears, in order for this to happen, Caleb needs to have 4,500 yards, 42 touchdowns. I've said 47 and 45 earlier in the season, but like that's how I just like I'm loosely creating narratives for the divisions, which you back into then statting out players. So.
Yeah, Shane, I'm curious. I want to hear your thoughts on the Bears this year, and you got them at 10 wins, which I love to see. So
I thought this would be a great season, like 10 wins. They're going to be a wild card team. I think I've said since like they drafted Caleb, I felt 3 teams would be in the playoffs from this division. So I think that's a home run. If they make the playoffs, and who knows, like. At 10-7, maybe they go and play the NFC South winner, and they could beat Atlanta in a first-round playoff game. I could see that happening at that point in time. I think 10 wins is a great season. It's hard for me, early in the year to try to figure that they win 2 road games against 2 teams who I think will be pretty good offensively, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear some optimism from you in that department, because I was curious to see where you would be at. So
Yeah, they're
that's
just
good to
like
see.
I think Caleb is it's hard to say he's going to have like Stroud, but I mean I think he has that he's obviously more talented than Stroud. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that. And I think coming into the year, their
Better
offensive
offense.
setup looks a lot better than what we would have pictured Houston's last year.
Yeah, we're
right?
talking Stroud. We're talking DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze,
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift against Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, and Devin Singletary.
And I think what nobody talks about is the
Schultz
running
will come
back
back.
room is so much better than what Houston was dealing with last year, right? You know, Pierce was didn't give him anything, so they had to turn to Singletary to be a guy. I mean, Chicago's
there?
loaded. No, I think
I don't think so.
gone. Chicago's loaded. I mean, Swift is even if Swift gets hurt, assuming they hold
There's
on
a lot
to
of
the guys,
Swift haters out there, man.
There is. I don't understand it, but
Idiots.
So many.
whatever.
So
Idiots.
many. Whatever. Let's not get into that. But
Idiots.
that's great to see.
Not efficient between the tackles. Just people that don't, or they do watch football, but they just don't have an eye for it, I think is what it is, which is crazy to me. But how do you look at him not as a good runner, looking at what he did when the Eagles were still a football team last year? I don't know. It's hard for me to. That's like one of those just instant credibility things that where I'm like, okay. Like,
To me, the only path I see for them not having a good year, I would say, would be because of Matt Eberflus. Like, if he's just not capable as a head coach. But even that, I feel confident enough as Shane Waldron on the offensive side to make up for that, you know?
right.
But that's the only path I could see them not getting to at least that 10-win mark of just Eberflus is just falls on his face.
Yeah. Well, let's transition to the next team. And before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And we're back. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves and talk about the Lions next, we're going to go through and talk about these fantasy players, kind of where they're being drafted, their ADP, whether we think it's a value or not, and whether we're okay drafting them there. So right now we have Caleb Williams. We got DeAndre Swift, as he's highlighting. We also have Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert in the backfield. And then as for wide receivers, you guys know we got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and for tight ends, Cole Kmet. So looking at their ADP, Caleb Williams, quarterback 16, pick 108. DeAndre Swift, running back 24, pick 77. Roshan Johnson and Khalil Herbert in that range, RB 59 and RB 56. I find that interesting. Do you guys not find that interesting?
I'm just gonna start with Caleb. Like, he's basically an auto pick at his ADP. Even if I already have Josh Allen, I'm taking Caleb if it's in, at QB 16. So targeting him on every single team, best ball, redraft, all across the board. So that's kind of for starters for the Bears. I mean, I think it's best just to talk about, like, I'm pretty much targeting most of these guys. DeAndre Swift, running back 24. I know Shane has a lot to say about that. RB 24, he's another like auto pick for me. I have him as a top 15 back. Caleb, I have as a top 5 quarterback. Roshan and Khalil, like, I don't think they'll be looked at in redraft leagues, in best ball. They're dart throws. At this point, you can choose one of them and throw one. It's not super interesting to me. I think one of them may have some fantasy relevancy. I don't see all 3 of them really. I don't know. I don't have much to say about that, honestly.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm envisioning Roshan Johnson to take a step forward this year. I'm thinking Khalil Herbert's going to be the odd man out. I could be very easily wrong. This is just a hunch I'm going on, but I'd be willing to throw a dart in best ball on Roshan. Redraft, you're right, though. There's not much, even handcuffs. We don't really recommend doing handcuffs anymore in fantasy football. And if I was to draft DeAndre Swift, I'm not handcuffing with Roschon. So probably not looking at those guys. But no, Caleb Williams.
DeAndre Swift goes down, Roschon's role doesn't change. It's Herbert's that changes. He steps into the Swift role. So like Roschon's, to me, is just, he's the one that has a different, the much different skill set from Swift. So he's going to have a role, I think, standalone value. Whereas Herbert, to me, doesn't really. He'll be like maybe every fourth series or something he comes in and gets one. But Swift and Roschon should have pretty standard roles all season in my mind. DJ Moore is a guy that he was top. I don't know what was he. What did he finish last year? Had career highs across the board in receptions, yards, touchdowns. Was a top 10.
Yeah, I know he's top 12 at least. Yeah,
top 12, and he's getting drafted at wide receiver 19 as a way better quarterback. That's a smash pick for me at that round 3 value. Keenan is the guy that I fade in this wide receiver room. Rome, I'm all over him as well. I think he steps in. I think he's got that maturity and that will to be a splash type rookie wide receiver that wants to come out of the gate strong with Caleb. So I don't necessarily see like Keenan being this, big time fantasy value like he has in the past. I just think he takes more of a mentorship role, understands his role in the team and the offense, plays it to a T, is incredible. Finding space and making plays. But I just think that Rome is going to be 1,000-yard receiver. DJ Moore is going to be a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And then what does that leave over for Keenan? Maybe close to 1,000 yards. To me, at the end of I'd rather have Rome at the end of the 7th than Keenan in the 4th when I think Rome outscores Keenan.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I share a lot of that sentiment. By the way, DJ Moore finished as a wide receiver 6 last year.
Yeah,
wide receiver 6.
I thought it was 6. I didn't want to say that because it seemed crazy that he's going as wide receiver 19 when he was 6 last year.
And he's playing with a better quarterback.
Playing with a million time better quarterback throwing the ball. So, I don't know if I'm ready to say this, but I'd have to look at his numbers. He could potentially have career highs across the board again. I know I said it last year, came true. He's going to be, if Caleb is a 4,540 touchdown throwing quarterback, he probably has career highs across the board again.
Yeah, he had 1,364 yards last year. And even if you downplay that a little bit, and Caleb's a 4,000-yard quarterback, you could see 1,400 plus for DJ Moore, in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with that.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
For me, it's 2 guys stand out. It's Swift.
Guys.
It's Swift that you get in round 6 as your RB1 if you want to load up on the first 5 rounds. Otherwise, you had 10 top 24 finishes last year, and that was with having to deal with touchdowns being taken away in Philadelphia. Whereas now you're not going to be seeing Caleb do that near the goal line.
Yeah, you love Swift. You've been talking about him for quite a bit.
And then I'm with you. Like, for me, it's Rome. I'm targeting Rome. Let's just look at the worst case scenario for Rome. Let's look at, and I think we would all agree there's no chance that this would happen, maybe a 2% chance. But let's just say Keenan Allen plays every single game, right? I mean, still last year in that Seattle offense, JSN had, I think it was 95 targets, 63 catches. So there's room still for production, even if Keenan Allen. I don't think Keenan Allen probably plays more than 11 games max. We'd be looking at, I think.
Yeah, so, I think that's I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I just think at some point in time, like, his ability just is too much to ignore. And he starts getting more targets, and then probably an injury happens to Keenan Allen at some point.
Well, we heard what Keenan said about Rome, right? You guys saw that snippet come through in a press conference. He says that Rome is a more polished, better route runner. He looks better coming into the NFL than Keenan felt like he was at his point in his career. So, and to be honest with you, the more we hear from camp, Keenan Allen is a slot receiver. So in 2 wide receiver sets, it is Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. So I think that alone right there, it makes Rome Odunze in the 7th round, very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of always figured that was going to be the case anyways. I mean, I think I was in the minority in that thought process. Like, I just thought that was his role all along. Like, Rome is the like Malachi Corley to the Randall Cobb situation for the Jets. Like, he's the new he's just the younger, more athletic, like, yeah, more of just raw talent, but that's why you have that veteran in there to kind of coach him up in training camp, and if he's ready, NFL ready, then he plays that role. And that's like the type of professional that Rome has always said to be. That's why the Bears fell in love with him. And that's what we're hearing from OTAs and now. So to me, that's what the role is going to be. It's like Rome is going to be the guy. Keenan's going to be the mentor. And, you know, the Bears are going to have an awesome year, first place, playoffs. And Keenan's going to take that team friendly deal to be a part of something special and kind of settle into that role of being the old man in the wide receiver room that makes huge, awesome, clutch plays, still is such a safety net, first down machine, you know, and kind of really forms into that type of mentor role late in his career. And I think that's kind of like perfect case scenario. So, yeah, I mean, super exciting. Oh, I have to bring up that playing in Chicago, Keenan Allen will morph at some point into Sleven Allen. Do you guys know about Sleven Allen?
Him wearing
No,
the
I
sleeves?
feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those
I
white
didn't know.
sleeves.
I had to bring it up because my boy Brick, who hopefully I don't think he'll ever come on the show, but his name will come up more.
We had a whole segment for him too, Bricks Picks.
When the super contest comes out, he's my partner in that. But Brick sent me. I had to bring up Sleven because he sent me last year Sleven Allen stats. There's something on Reddit that like when he wears sleeves, his numbers are like insanely good. So Sleven Allen will be morphed playing in, you know, cold Chicago. Hopefully I can find that after the episode and tweet out Sleven Allen's his stats. But yeah,
That's awesome. I did not know that. And then lastly, what about Cole Kmet? Cole Kmet's being drafted as tight end 16, round 11. You know, if you waited in your drafts, I'm not sure why you would this year, but if you do wait in drafts and not select a quarterback tight end until round 10 or later, Cole Kmet to me is interesting. Although with the amount of wide receivers on this team, I'm not sure how many targets he's going to get. I would say he's probably 4th in line for targets, obviously behind the 3 wide receivers. So I'm not too optimistic about Cole Kmet, but he's a solid tight end, and I think he's going to get, he's very active in the red zone. I think he's going to get touchdowns. So
yeah, great for NFL. Great NFL tight end, bad fantasy.
That's a great way to put it.
At least redraft fantasy. I mean, he's in the no-fly zone for me. I think there's undrafted tight ends that you can get that will be better than him.
Greg Dulcich.
Yeah.
the sitch.
Basically, him and Dalton Schultz are like the Spider-Man meme, like, you know, pointing
That's
at
a
each
good
other.
point. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's enough Bears talk, huh? I'd love to hash it up with you guys and talk more Bears the rest of this episode, but we should probably move on. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions, team that made it very far last year. We talked about that game with against the 49ers. They should have won that game. We got to close it out. But, I mean, this team's really, really good. And, you know, I don't want to say probably going to win the division, but they're everybody's favorite to win the division for sure. And I'm excited to see where this all ends up. But I have the Detroit Lions at here. Can you pull it up on your? I'm not looking at
12-5.
12-5. Yeah. So one game, one loss more than the Bears. I do think they're a playoff team for sure. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. They're one of the better NFC teams. And yeah, I think they're going to be really good this year. But there's not much analysis. Everybody thinks that. So,
yeah, I have them at 12-5, probably winning it. Like I said earlier, I just think they're so stacked on both sides of the line. Best set of offensive weapons. I think they have probably what I would call a top 3 or top 5 play caller in the NFL in Ben Johnson. They really took that step up, last year of everybody was talking about them, and to go into San Francisco and really maybe just that fluky play from Brandon Ayuk away from probably, perhaps making it to the Super Bowl. But I just love the additions they made on defense. They saw what they needed to do. It's a completely rebuilt secondary. They've added great depth on the defensive line. They're talking about Branch now moving back to safety. They don't have to play him as like a slot corner like they did a lot last year. So they just really looked at their weaknesses and strengthened it this year.
Yeah, I love the saying the brand new Lions, because I mean the same old Lions we've seen years and years and years, but they really are the brand new Lions, and they're going to win a lot of games this year. I don't really want to hash out every game on the schedule like Mike said when we were talking about the Bears. I have a hard time picking games right on a weekly basis during the NFL season, let alone at this point in the season. But I think they should win about 12 games.
I'm looking up the Bears are at 8.5, kind of 9, and I don't like this one. I'm looking up what Vegas has these teams at right now. Sorry, not trying to.
No, you're good. I am curious though. Looking at your schedule breakdown, Mike, you got them at 9 wins.
Yeah, they go through a rough stretch late in the season. Goff gets hurt. I'm kidding. 8.5 wins for the Bears is -160, so that'll get bet up to 9 wins. 10.5 for the Lions, so you guys both have them comfortably over that 10.5 win total. Green Bay's at 9.5, and then Minnesota's at 7.5, with the under being heavily hit. So 10.5 Lions, 9.5 Pack, 8.5 Bears, 7.5 Lions. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings, all separated by 1 win, according to Vegas. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a tight division. So I don't know. I think we all seem to have that. Basically, the Lions through Bears, Packers, all like 1 win above that. In terms of just like across the board, we think there's going to be a 11 to 12 game winner, potentially 3 teams in the playoffs out of that division. Yeah, I have them going through a pretty late stretch where they get beaten up. Bills at Bears at Niners. That's 3 losses to me. I think the Bills are going to be one of the best teams like they have been. I think the Niners are going to be one of the best teams. And I think the Bears are going to be playing at home to win a division. So to me, there's a 3-game losing streak. At Packers, at Texans, home against the Jags.
I think I made a mistake. I'm looking at that, and I got Lions at Bears I marked down as a win. But I have that wrong. I believe that is where's my thing here?
Yeah, we don't need to get too hung up on this, on the individual win-losses, but
No, that's fair. I just had a brain fart. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
I'm sure if we cross-referenced all of these, there would be errors in all of ours at some point, especially when we go throughout the entire league. That's why I don't want to get too caught up on the individual wins and losses. But, that's a hot start for the Lions. You would think that they would be able to all three of us have 4 wins. So, you'd think that you'd be able to build off that and have a great season. But I just see, at Cowboys, the Vikings get a win at some point. And then you beat the Titans, but you have a tough stretch with at Packers, at Texans, Jaguars. I think I might have them winning that division. So at Colts, that's not an easy win. Put them on the board for that one. beating the Bears, beating the Packers. Those are three tough teams. They could lose any of those as well. Late in the season, Bills, Bears, at Niners. I just have that stretch being very tough, and them not necessarily even going 500 in those games.
And there's a scenario I could see him starting off 7-0. Like, if you guys remember, I don't know if you remember, because I do. Remember that game at Dallas last year? They only lost it because of the boneheaded, like, guy coming in trying to substitute. They made the call for the winning touchdown, but they called the flag. I mean, it was just crazy that happened at the end. I mean, they should have probably won that game.
I honestly almost put them at close. I think when I first looked at it, I was like, man, that is way too many wins in a row. Like, there's no way they're going to be 7-0. But then I saw how much I got them getting beaten up late in the season, and could it really be that tale of two halves too? Like, I don't know. This is a team that's really good at football. I just think it's really hard to win. What did they win last year? 10, 11, 12?
Yeah, I think they had 11, yeah.
11. It's really hard to win 11 and then 12 wins in back-to-back seasons when you're a team who hasn't been to the playoffs in 30 years. The NFL is a really hard league, and when you're looking at Packers, Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Bears, Packers, Bills, Bears, Niners, I don't really care how good your team is, and you've only been that good for 1 year, and Jared Goff's your quarterback, and he's not necessarily the greatest, especially away in Green Bay. I'm not as solid on the Lions as you two are, apparently.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even in those first 4 weeks, I'm looking at it like, dude, the Buccaneers win games they shouldn't win all the time. The Seahawks win games they shouldn't win all the time. So, like,
that was a playoff game last year too, right?
Bucks was, yeah.
Bucks Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
So, yeah, I mean, to me, like, I don't know if I'm wrong in this opinion, but out of all the elite NFC teams, which a lot of people would put the Lions in this category, they seem like the most susceptible to downfall out of all the, like, in my opinion, but I could be wrong.
Let's see, I get the opposite. I think they're the least susceptible to have the downfall just because of the culture that you mentioned that doesn't get talked about has been built. The coaching staff, the depth everywhere. And the good thing about Goff is like, he's not this high end, but the guy's out there every week. It's almost like Eli Manning-esque. Like, he does not miss games. And that counts for something.
Yeah. Well, Goff is being drafted as quarterback
I'm, like, 12. Super pumped calling him Eli Manning. I still, like, that doesn't get my dick that hard. So I'm worried. I am. I think that winning culture is really good and fun when they're winning. But then when Dan Campbell starts to make the wrong call on fourth down because they don't get it, and that happens in 2 straight games, and they end up in losses, and then the Detroit media is like, fuck, we're on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, and Dan Campbell just made 2 idiotic calls late in the game to go for it. That's why this league is so hard, because some of those plays that worked out for them, and he was looked as a really aggressive, good coach. Like, I think he's a great motivator. I don't know that he's a great football X's and O's type coach like LaFleur.
Yeah, I get what you mean there.
But Ben Johnson is.
Sure.
Yeah, Ben Johnson's a good play caller, dude. I think the losing of Josh Reynolds could, Josh Reynolds made some big catches for them, big 3rd down conversions. Like, he was a intricate piece to this offense, and losing him,
Jamison Williams is going to be outstanding. Like I think he's getting drafted really high, and I think he is maybe one of the most like smash picks for me that could just completely explode his already steamed ADP.
Yeah.
And supposedly he looks like an absolute freak from what we're hearing in camp. So hopefully that doesn't continue to steam. I know that he's getting drafted in that like Sutton area, who now has signed an extension, and I'm feeling solid about any Sutton shares I currently own because, you know, him being wide receiver 1 for a Bo Nix that is going to go out there and sling it with Sean Payton, like should see some good production, should see good tight end or touchdown numbers again. He is getting drafted in that bucket, so it's like how much more can he get steamed? But I think Jameson Williams is stepping into what you just mentioned, Josh Reynolds' role, which was awesome. Like,
Definitely.
it really was a sneaky, awesome role. Well, now it's Jameson Williams. It is a little different. Josh Reynolds, to me, is more of a possession receiver than he is a, you know, home run hitting, just get him the ball and let him fucking go type guy like Jameson. But, you know, if he adds that route tree to his game as well, then not only is he going to get the home run swing type plays called for him, but the volume catches as a possession receiver. It could be a huge year for Jameson.
Yeah, being drafted as wide receiver 49 in the 8th round, a lot of upside. So, yeah, I'd be interested in that value for sure.
Yeah, I think Gibbs is worth noting. He's getting drafted at that 1-2 turn. That's too rich for me. I think he's awesome. He's a great talent, and that's the type of player him and Jameson Williams are the type of players that could take this team to the next level as like one of the best, like surefire, one of the best teams in the NFC. So they're going to need him to play a huge role. I just think there needs to be more volume to be round 1, round 2. Like I even like ETN more than Gibbs in terms of like just getting that volume. You know, Montgomery's still 27, 28 years old. He's gonna have that hard-nosed type role that that Campbell just loves. So he's gonna get touchdowns. They're going to be running him early in games to establish the run. I just don't think that role goes away.
Yeah, and Montgomery, like I've talked about this a lot, and I think his value. I don't know, round 6. Like I'd rather take Swift than Montgomery, but Montgomery's one of those guys. Like if you want to draft like a Jonathan Brooks in fantasy, Montgomery's a great guy to get. You know, that's safe, high floor each week. You know. He's going to get he'll have 12 to 15 touches each week, probably.
Do you guys
see? I don't know though.
Do you guys recall what he finished as last year?
I don't.
No.
Running back 9.
Yeah.
Running back 9, 13 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards. Like I get the pendulum is going to swing in the direction of Gibbs, but I don't see Montgomery's role diminishing that much, that drastically. So yeah, I'm interested in his ADP.
So Shane, 6. For me, like 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, that's a high ceiling. So what I'm about to say is like that just got discounted because of if that's what the same, you know, if it's the same role and that's what it equates to, then like of course that's a high ceiling. But like for me, like it's almost a touchdown dependent type running back. And the reason why I say that is because like, you know, if his game that doesn't include a touchdown is 10 rushes, 62 yards, or 15 rushes, 12 rushes, 62 yards, something around that range, you know, that's a 6.2, maybe as a catch in there. Like, I don't know what his points per game was, but like he's just, if he turns into one of those guys that becomes touchdown dependent, I'm just always worried about that. But again, if you're not taking like a huge swing and he's just, you know, you need a guy that's going to give you points, I don't know. That's maybe just an area where like my redraft brain has been ruined by best ball. So
No, he's not going to give you much in the receiving department, but that's like, well, I'll take a guy like Swift in that round over him any days. Yeah,
so what does that non-touchdown game look like is what I'm
probably
trying to
what
get
you
at.
said, 12 for
14.
60, 12 for 70.
14 for 60. Like, I'm not looking at his game log right now, but
Yeah,
13
I'm looking
touchdowns.
at it, and that's what. Yeah,
there's not many games where he's not. What's 13 by 17? That's, I don't know the math on that. It's probably 80 something, 86%, mid 80% if I had to guess. So that's pretty fucking good. But it has to be 13 touchdowns or it's going to be tough, I think.
Yeah.
Just for me, I don't know. I mean, if I could be wrong in that, like, if he gets you, 80% of the games, he gets you a touchdown, and that's the role he's playing on your roster, and because of the other 20% of the time, Jonathan Brooks goes off for 20 points, then that could be, him filling in for that role and giving you a very high percentage,
yeah. I think Montgomery still has the goal line work. I think
That's not the debate. The debate is 13 touchdowns is a lot.
Here's where the point I was going to get to is I'm expecting a similar type of output in the touchdown standpoint. I think he's going to get those goal line carries. The coach loves him. The team likes that type of runner, and I think Montgomery could easily have another season where 10 plus touchdowns.
10's different than 13 though when we're talking like touchdown dependent running back starting in your redraft league. Like 3 touchdowns gives you an extra 3 weeks where he's scoring a touchdown, and that makes him a smash start is the touchdown,
Yeah.
So 3 out of 17 weeks, again, I'm not going to get the math right, but that's whatever.
Yeah, so he had, I was just
5,
looking, he had
10%.
17 rush attempts inside the 5. Gibbs surprisingly had 10. So I think, and I remember later in the season, I think they were operating like, okay, whoever's in on this package, they're staying in even at the goal line. Like I vividly remember, I think it was a Chargers game they were at. It was at the Chargers, and it was Gibbs' package in there. He stayed at the goal line and got the carry and got the touchdown. That's my concerns.
There was also that point. Yeah, there was the point in the season where like Montgomery was eating so much and Gibbs felt like he was starving a little bit, and the rookie was excited to get in the end zone. And I remember Montgomery like pushing Gibbs back into the game when Campbell said like get on in there, and he's like no, like I want Gibbs to score this touchdown.
Oh yeah.
I vividly remember that happening in a game. So 13's a lot. I don't know what his over-under is, but it can't be 12.5. It's probably 8.5.
Quick question: more rushing touchdowns, David Montgomery or Gus Edwards?
Probably.
I'll say David Montgomery.
Same.
All right.
What would you say? 775.5 is his rushing yard total.
Well, okay.
And let's see touchdowns. 8.5. I was right on the dot. So 8.5 is not 13. So that makes me a little worried. Swift has 5.5 and 700.5 rushing yards.
That seems like a take the over.
Yeah, interesting. They got Montgomery for more.
And they have 8.5 rushing after coming off a 13 season. Yeah, I don't know. That's the worry for me is how much does that pendulum swing, but is that rushing number just that aggressive still? I mean, what did Jamal Williams had like fucking 17 the year before, right? Something crazy.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it something outrageous like that?
Yeah, it got him a good contract with the Saints.
But I think it was like literally almost a touchdown a game. I'm gonna look right now. Anyways, talk about the wide receiver room. We got to start hammering out.
Yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra, there's really not much to talk about here.
Yeah.
He's an elite wide receiver, being drafted as wide receiver 5, pick 6 in round 1. He's worth that pick. You know what I mean? Like, don't get cute at that point in the draft. I think Amon-Ra is very much worth his draft capital.
Yeah. And then that's it for that team. I mean,
17
we
touchdowns.
What'd you say?
For Jamal, 17 the year before.
Yeah.
Touchdown a game.
Yeah.
So,
and then
8.5
Laporta
looks good. 8.5 looks good.
Yeah. And then Sam Laporta being drafted as tight end 1 in round 2. I don't have him as the tight end 1, but I'm totally okay with where he's being drafted. I mean, he was very active. He's looking like one of the elite tight ends now in the NFL after his dominant rookie season. So I'm fine with being where he's drafted. I'm probably just personally not going to be taking him.
Yeah, he's a fade for me in round 2. Like, I don't know.
Same.
There's as much as I have him as tight end 1, but if you're telling me I can get Dalton Kincaid in round 4, then that's an easy call.
To me.
I mean,
yeah, good point.
It's not like the years in the past when it was Kelsey and it was only Kelsey, so he was worth the high 1 or the early 2.
Yeah, very true. All right, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers.
Go Pack, go!
By the way, I went out to Lambeau. I know I've probably told you guys a story. I couldn't believe. Like, I've heard all the hype about Lambeau. I went to a Bears-Packers game. I think it was last year or the year before. I feel like it was last year. It was so much fun. Much fun.
That's what I've heard. It's like
Lambeau
a college game.
It was so cool. So cool. But, I mean, where am I at with let's see. I got Packers at 9-8. This one I don't feel confident in. I feel like they could easily be much better than 9-8 and win the 12 games. It all depends on how Jordan Love. We saw a small sample size. Excuse me. At the end of the year last year, he had like 8 good games, right? But prior to that, he had some adjusting to get to. So to me, it's not a lock that Jordan Love is this elite quarterback and this young Packers team is going to be, a juggernaut in the NFC. That's not a lock to me, but there's still a lot to unfold. And starting off the season with the Eagles, that's a tough game. Then you got the Colts, Titans, Vikings. You got the Rams. Like their schedule isn't very difficult, but after the bye is where I have them having a string of losses again. At Bears, 49ers, Dolphins, at Lions. That's going to be a real trial for them. But overall, they're a good team and they could easily win any game that they play. So I don't feel confident about putting them at 9-8.
Yeah, when I was looking, I was like, I don't know if we should have been that surprised at the slow start with Love last year. I mean, he hadn't really played much the year before. I think it was 1 start, and then he's breaking in a whole new set of young receivers, and Christian Watson misses the first 4 games, and
Aaron Jones injury.
Jones. I mean,
no, you're right.
It just makes a lot of sense that we saw that then kind of like ramp up the whole second half of the year. And a lot of what I'm looking at him is just eye test. And you can just see that twitchy, athletic, ability that he's got, it's something's there, just looking at him play. Like, I just vividly remember how he played some of those last games, including in Dallas, where he just looked like he was on a different level.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest home runs last year was Jordan Love. I think from the eye test, to me, like, he had it when he came in late in the season and played 1 game or 2 quarters. It was like, fuck, this guy is really composed. And that sample size was so small, but like seeing the way that he just managed the offense and stayed composed and marched down the field, like, that's what NFL quarterbacks look like. For me, it was very obvious in terms of like how he leads. So that, did I think he would step in and beat the shit out of the Cowboys and make Shane O'Mac hate life in the playoffs? Like, probably not. That was such a beatdown.
Yeah.
And that just kind of builds on that. Like, he's going to be a big-time quarterback in the NFL. He's just going to be one of those guys that's there, as much as you probably don't want to hear that, Truck. But, like, he's the real deal. The composure, I think, is probably what stands out to me the most. Even, like, in the second half of the year when things... Maybe he started a game with a couple 3-and-outs. Like, it wasn't quicksandy for him. It was like, let's figure this out and get something that works before halftime. And then he would just take over the second half, So that type of like mentality and like mental, being that strong mentally, that's like an intangible that separates some of these quarterbacks in the NFL, and Love's got that. So like Shane just said, like year 2, Jaden Reed is a year smarter and a year more chemistry, has a year more built up chemistry with Love and understands the playbook that much better. Watson, if he stays healthy, like Jacobs, you bring in a guy who's maybe a little bit more durable, but has a strong skill set at running back. This team should look a year older and a year more polished. And if that's the case, that defense is good. Like, the defense is probably one of the more like underrated defenses, I think, going into this year. People aren't thinking like, fuck, the Packers, watch out, we got to go to Lambeau. I don't necessarily think that's the mentality with the Clay Matthews and the AJ Hawk years as it is now, but they have a sneaky good defense.
Yeah, and when they're not like the Lions on the D line and O line, but both lines are in the top 15 ranked going in this year. And so that's something, especially when you're pairing that with a great offensive depth of offensive receivers and quarterback. When I can get an O line and a D line ranked in the top 15, that goes a long ways.
Yeah, it's definitely not
in the
nothing.
Trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Games are won in the trenches. Even Kraft and Musgrave, to me, like, they complement each other so well. Like, I think they hit on both of those draft picks. I think that they both have their role in the offense, and they're going to take that and show that this year. Like, Musgrave's going to have some big-time fucking plays and be like a real deal weapon from the pass-catching standpoint. And then Kraft is just kind of that, like, grinded-out run blocker that will surprisingly have some, like, I think a decent amount of touchdowns. I could see him being one of those guys that is in there to kind of decoy run, and then he pops out and has, 7 touchdowns, and people are like, where the fuck did Tucker Kraft come from,
Yeah. Yeah, their tight ends are used in unique ways like that. Like, you just see them, boom, now they're 20 yards downfield catching a fly ball. So it's very interesting. I find it the most impressive the way that Jordan Love was able to get everybody involved in all of the young weapons that he had. Like, I can't wait to see what actually develops with this wide receiver room. I mean, Christian Watson, can he stay on the field? You mentioned Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, even Bo Melton. I've seen people banging the drum for him as well. So I think there's a lot to develop there in that wide receiver room on the, establishment of where each guy kind of is positioned out.
Yeah, I think Wicks is the interesting one for me in terms of, like, I think his talent's incredible, but just being the fourth dog there, like, with Musgrave getting some too, he's got the ability to probably be top 2, but, like, is that gonna come to fruition this year? Like, I think it has to, if it ever will. Does he jump Dobbs, who I think, like, in terms of pure talent, he's probably better than? But then Dobbs has so much built up chemistry and success, right? Like, he might not have the raw talent, but like he has the most production. And Reed's gonna be. I just don't even really put him in the wide receiver room. He's just like a mini Debo the way that they use him, so he's gonna get his regardless. Kind of like what we talked about Tank Dell. Like, the conversation for me is more between Diggs and Collins, not as much as Dell, because Dell's just going to be prioritized to getting the ball. That's how Reed is. And then I just think Watson's still that elite talent. So, like, for me, the values with Watson, I'm taking that risk on him staying healthy. I'm taking Reed at wide receiver 34 as well. I like the buy on both of them. And then I'm probably throwing that late flyer at Wicks and not Dobbs because of pure talent. I think in order for like a home run to happen for Dobbs, there needs to be an injury or two. And for Wicks, it's just like having the opportunity to showcase his talent. So like the probability of him exploding, I'm going to bet on the talent over the history with the quarterback. But yeah, like you mentioned, for me, like there's a ton of value in the Packers pass catching room. I forget what the stats are. You know how I get. I've seen them all, but I don't necessarily remember them all. Something about where the Texans are being drafted and the amount of targets that Stroud, the production from Stroud and Love and how many targets their wide receivers got compared to like where their values and their ADPs are. The Packers are round 5 and 6, whereas Collins is going round 2 and Diggs in 3. So that's 3 rounds of value difference, but the stats showed that they were pretty much in line. So to me, you're going to find value in that Packers pass catching room pretty much anywhere you go, but plant your flag on one of them and you're going to be all right.
Yeah. I think it's Watson for me. Like, I just think when he was healthy on those weeks 5 through 13, like he led the team in targets and catches. Like, and then when I was looking at it, it was just not a large sample size, but you look at the playoffs when they had a healthy Watson and they had all the receivers, and then they had also Tucker Kraft and Musgrave healthy and playing. Like, Reed was not targeted in those 2 playoffs games. I think it was 3 catches on 7 targets or something for like 30 yards. I mean, he didn't get any of the targets or catch volume. So,
yeah, I mean, right before Watson got injured, kind of right in that range where Jordan Love started meshing really well with the team. I mean, 4 touchdowns in 3 games. Like, he was scoring all the time. So like when he's healthy and this team is meshing and Jordan Love's, Christian Watson has the most upside.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, Jacobs will be interesting. Round 3, I'm out on that. I'm out on him in the 3rd round. I'll take a stab at Lloyd because I like his talent. The hamstring's a little bit of a worry. I'm sure his ADP is going to get hit this week. From my understanding, it's not very serious, but beginning of camp for a rookie, he needs his reps, so that's kind of a little bit of a worry. Supposedly, AJ Dillon looks incredible, best shape he's ever been in. I don't really know what that means. I still like Lloyd and him being the guy that I throw a dart at. I get these like weird little intuitions every year, and like something's telling me Jacobs gets hurt and Lloyd is a league winner. So you'll probably see Lloyd on quite a few teams as a keeper, just because I like the role, and I think LaFleur's been looking for that guy that he thought or would have hoped to be the Dillon, and Lloyd can step in and has the ability to kind of run with anything they give him. So I like Lloyd a lot.
Yeah, I like Lloyd a lot too. I like Josh Jacobs. I'm willing to take him in that round 3. I have him ranked a little bit above his ADP currently. I think he's a fringe top 10 guy. I think the reason they brought him in they're going to utilize him, and I think he's going to be a stud. Marshawn Lloyd, though, I love this guy. Like I have him at running back 39. He's being drafted as running back 45. I'll take him in that round. To me, like, ever since the past years with Tony Pollard being that like the top tier running back 2, right? It was like for like 3 or 4 years, everyone was drafting Tony Pollard first in the running back 2 category. Marshawn Lloyd to me is kind of in that range right now, where I think he has standalone value. And if anything happens with Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd could be a league winner in the second half of the season.
Yep.
Yeah, Musgrave. I'll take him if I miss out on pretty much Kincaid. But Kincaid or Pitts are the 2 tight ends that I target in every draft, and I miss out on them. Then Musgrave's, it's either Freiermuth or Musgrave. In that like 15 to 17 range, tight end 15 to 17 range that I think have top 10 upside. So those are the 2 guys I take there. Out on Kraft, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, well, let's wrap it up with the worst team in the division, the Minnesota Vikings.
Look at those L's.
Take that, Anky, bitch.
Oh man, look at the L's.
Yeah, dude, a lot of L's over here. I'm taking the under on their 7.5 win total. I think that is outrageous.
That seems
I will
crazy.
be placing that bet as soon as we get off this episode. No, yeah, I mean, dude, it's hard for me to find a win for them. Like, it really is. Like, and it's hard because they got great weapons. Justin Jefferson is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I get that. I don't think their defense is going to be very good. They did bring in some good pieces. I like their draft picks, but I don't know if it's all going to mesh well. Aaron Jones, to me, isn't that star-studded of a running back acquisition. He's a great player. He's very explosive. And then Ty Chandler, to me, on the back end is like, But Sam Darnold looks like he's going to be the starter. We'll see. That could develop into JJ. I think they're just going to be really bad. And after a while, you're going to see JJ hit the field. And what he does with that, who knows? Maybe JJ can turn it around and they can win games in the second half. But I'm not projecting them to be very good.
At Giants versus Niners versus Packers. At Packer or versus Texans, at Packers versus Jets. Niners, Texans, Packers, Jets. That could be 4 playoff teams. So you go at Giants and then 4 straight playoff teams. Then you get a bye.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe 1-4.
Sure, maybe 1-4.
Right?
Yeah.
They do have talent though. That's what I was gonna say. Like Darnold, can he throw the ball? Like listen, I'm not the biggest Sam Darnold guy in the world. Nick Mullins was able to deliver the ball to Jettas and Addison, and obviously they had Hawk, which they won't have. So like for me, they're just in a spot where like everything's not going their way right now. So it's just going to be hard to win games against that type of a schedule, against how good their division is right now. So you drop 2 to the. They're probably going to go 1-5 the division. Like they'll beat one of the teams, but they're going to get taken down in 2 straight to the Bears, to the Packers.
To me, not only they're the worst team in the division, but they have the toughest schedule out of all 4 teams that we just broke down. So
and they're like, I don't like some of the other teams we talked about. They did not do anything to help their defense. Like they are like in the bottom 5 of defensive line and secondary this year, heading into the year. They did not do much to improve it. So
if you're 0-5 heading into bye, do you then start JJ week 7
at home? It's a home game. I hadn't even played that picture out. Yeah. I hadn't even played that out.
I wasn't anticipating. I feel like you're probably right.
And that's where they get the first win in mine. In my rankings, there in white. I don't know that I like JJ stepping in and winning his first game. That would be great for their team and a lot of positive momentum heading into week 2 at the Rams.
Yeah.
Hey man, listen, if they go 0-5, go by, start JJ, and then you get this little win loss, get go 4-4 in your next 8 games. You're feeling pretty good about your starting quarterback, your draft pick in JJ McCarthy. So I have them at 5-12, much below their win total of 7.5, but like to me that's kind of a win of a season in a weird way, because I think there's positive momentum that you could build off of heading into next year. I'm kind of happy if I'm a Vikings fan with that. It's hard to say. It's hard to tell a Vikings fan. It's hard to tell a Vikings fan right now, Josh Hankey, if you're listening, 5-12. It's okay. It's going to be a positive year. That's what I'm hanging on to. Is started the season, it was a disaster. No Hawkinson. Bring in the rookie quarterback. We go 4 out of our next 4. He wins a couple good games against some playoff teams, and we have a lot to build on next offseason. JJ's our guy. Addison's there. Hawk's there for next year. We got to bring in a running back.
I could even see him sneaking away. I could see him sneaking away a win with the last game of the season too. Lions already have the playoff spot locked down.
Yeah, whatever.
Their starters, they could easily get another win there.
Yeah.
But as far as their players, their fantasy assets, Justin Jefferson.
But before we go there, Truck, I want to stake one more thing on the schedule. I want you to optimistically give us 8 wins and hit that over 7.5 total.
Like how they can do it?
Yeah, just walk through. Give us 8 wins.
Okay. All right. Giants, I got them at the 1. 49ers, no. Texans, no. At Packers,
no.
Maybe
the
Jets,
next one.
No.
Maybe the next. If
I don't know. At home,
you
versus
need
the Jets,
to
no,
give us.
not.
You need to give us 8 wins, Truck.
If you're going for 8, you got to give it that Jets game a win.
I can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it.
All right, 1-4. We got to win 7 after the bye.
Okay. Then you got versus Rams. They could win that game.
Lions
game
at home
versus the Ram. Lions at home. Yes, they could win that game. So we'll give them that. At Rams, to me, it's a winnable game because the Rams.
Oh my gosh, no, you cannot count that as a win.
It is a winnable game in my opinion.
God.
To
3
where
wins.
Coles, you're just trying to make him look dumb now. This is not good.
No, I'm not.
Win at the Rams.
I'm doing this for his buddy Yankee to
Colts.
win 8 games.
You know what I should have done? I should have called him and be like, dude, give me your schedule breakdown. What does a Vikings fan expect to win in this season? But no, to be fair, the Cardinals at home, they could win that game.
Yeah.
They could, yes.
I got them down for a win at Titans, win at Seahawks. What does that put me at? Is that 6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 7 is the Cardinals. So, and then at Lions, that's your 8th. Your Lions are already in the playoffs. There's your 8th win.
There you go.
That's how
they do it.
8 wins, baby. That's how they get the over.
Yeah. Do I think it happens? No. I
go
don't
into
think it
fantasy.
happens. Okay.
Now talk fantasy like you were about to. I wanted to. You mentioned that you were gonna be. Oh shit! That you were gonna be all over the under 7.5 wins. So I wanted to hear you.
Yeah, and we could start with the quarterback. Sam Darnold being drafted as quarterback 34. JJ has 29. I find that interesting. Sam Darnold, to me, I think he plays the majority of the season. I know Cole's just broke down him getting sat if they start 0-5 by the bye week, which is something I didn't really think about. But off the top of my head, I do think Sam Darnold plays the majority of the season. If he does, I think he has some upside if they end up figuring it out. But I just find it interesting that JJ is getting drafted over Sam, and he's not even the week 1 starter, the projected starter. Not drafting either one of them in my ideal leagues. And then Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is someone I want to like. I like his athleticism. I like his explosiveness, as I said before. I think he's a good running back. but I don't think the Vikings have a good offensive line, and I think the team's going to be bad. So drafting him in round 5 is something I'm probably not going to do. But I do think he's a good player. So there's just conflict there, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I'm full fading the Vikings.
Based on the round,
not a bad idea.
The one
Not a
guy
bad idea.
I don't like that where he's going. If that's at round 6, but I am curious about Addison a little bit. Just looking at, I don't think Hawkinson starts off playing. I think he's going to be on the PUP list, even though there's some positive reports recently. It's hard for me to see based off the timing of his injury that he is good. He's good to go, but that's a decent amount of targets available in those first 5 weeks of the season. But 6th round, I don't like that value at all.
No, neither do I. I mean, he caught a ton of touchdowns last year, and I'm not sure that's really replicable to this season. So I'm out on Addison. I'd be okay drafting Justin Jefferson. I think that good a receiver, obviously.
I think I'm siding with Colts here. Besides
Jefferson
JJ,
at 5,
there's
even
nobody.
that though. Yeah, Jefferson at 5. That's kind of been the move in best ball. I don't know if it translates to redraft necessarily, because I think I would probably lean going Bijan over him, just because I would have more fun watching the Falcons. And sometimes, like, if I think a probability of a player to hit is going to happen, it's like, do I want to pay attention to the Vikings this year, or do I want to have fun watching the Falcons? And like, maybe that'll be my deal breaker, And I just want more Bijan than cheering for fucking Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy. So I don't know. Hawkinson, I'm out on completely for the most part. Best ball, it gets me a little bit more excited if he can come on late in the season and get you some big time weeks. But Jones, from his sort of like, I think he can have a really good year. But I just am so off on the team. That concerns me. I like the idea of a bounce back, kind of showing the Packers, like, you let me go to your division. All right, well, here's a win. I don't know. I think he's like, that's his mentality. Like, that's who he is as a player, is like, bounces back and has a nice year and kind of proves to himself and the world that, like, shouldn't have gotten rid of me kind of thing. So I see that. I see that. I'm full fading the Vikings. They don't have a quarterback in my mind.
Yeah, that's not a bad play. I think I like it.
Your one of your stars in Hawkinson is starting the year injured. It's just things aren't going in their favor, and when that happens, it's hard to win in the NFL.
Yeah. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Shane's having some eye adjustment issues over there. I see him constantly going like this. You okay with that, Shane?
It's context.
Oh, okay, context. I thought it was getting late for you, but we appreciate you guys watching, listening. We got more divisional breakdowns coming at you, and make sure you check out the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. We got some quality articles coming out. Shane, what's on the forecast for the
so posted this week with 2nd-year receivers, and then next week's going to be preseason battles to watch, as we will, a week from today we have football on. So
oh my god,
I
can't wait.
Yeah, so we'll have preseason. Substack next week is preseason battles to watch.
Okay.
But next Thursday night, first Hall of Fame game of the year.
I'm trying to think of what we could release with these breakdowns. I don't necessarily want to release our like win-loss like we just showed, because I don't know that we should put a lot of, we just shouldn't emphasize that. I don't know that that's,
I agree,
the best content out there, as much just like talking points, building narratives for these teams early in the off season. But we should maybe think of something to release Substack wise, so we can put our heads together there. Keep an eye out for that.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we got mock draft still coming. We got possibly
Mock.
more best ball drafts. We'll see. We got stuff up in the air, some things still to get sorted out, but yeah, some mock locket ding dongs. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on social media, all that. You guys are the best.
Holy
And
shit.
buckle up.
Mac.